that what got you to 500,000 is what's stopping you from getting to 1 million. Good morning. Today we are going to talk about how to break through the 500K ceiling. My name is Chris Guyman with Time Freedom Lawyers, and I'm excited to talk to you about this. I know this is a big thing for a lot of people. So as you're coming in and joining us, like I said, say hi in the chat, tell me where you're coming from, and then also let me know what you think is your biggest hurdle to breaking through that 500K ceiling. I know for me, when I first started practicing, I was really bad at business. And I openly admit that. I want to share that with people because I know that sometimes you see the people ahead of you and you're like, man, I could never do that. I could never be there. And that's just not further from the truth. That was not me. So I started my own firm right out of school. And the best job offer I got, well, I should take a step back. I had some job opportunities in San Antonio where I went to law school, and I was going to make about 120 a year plus bonuses. So I was like, sweet, that's pretty good. But I wanted to move back to Utah. So I came back to Utah, took the bar here, started applying for jobs. The best job offer I got here was 50,000 a year. And I was like, oh, that sucks, right? For 50,000 a year, I'm going to start my own thing. So I start my own practice. I make 78,000 gross revenue that first year and kept 14 of it. So I barely made over minimum wage. And that's when I was like, oh, I either need to figure this thing out or I got to go get a real job, right? Like this isn't going to work. So I started studying business and it took me 5 years to get to that $500,000 ceiling. It took me a really long time to learn. Funny enough, my first coaching client did 500,000 her first year. So she was able to buy 5 years of education by getting some help. That's another story for another time. But what I noticed for both myself and my coaching clients early on is we'd all get to this about $500,000 a year threshold, and then we'd get stuck. And some people may be 400, some people may be 600, but it was right around that range, and we'd get stuck. We wouldn't know what to do next. And so as you're joining us, I'd love to hear, what do you think it is? Why do you think that attorneys, we get stuck at that $500,000 a year range? Even if you're watching this on recording, drop your comment in the chat after the fact, because I'd love to see what you think and say there. So here's what I noticed, and it really came down to 3 things. The first thing was all about belief. A lot of us had never made money like this before. We see our attorney friends out there. We see that they're struggling to make money, and we just don't believe that it's possible. We don't believe that it's possible to get to the next level. So let's talk about what stops us from hitting 500K. 3 things. The first one is going to be belief. And you see other people struggling with their practice and they just can't seem to make any money. And you're like, you know what, that just must be what happens for attorneys. Obviously that's not true, but that's how we feel. And that's what we see. And so the first thing I like to do now, as I've been helping people break this 500,000 a year ceiling, is to just do the math. See, what is it actually going to take for you to hit the next goal, whether it's 1 million a year, whatever. This is all hypothetical enough. We're sitting here talking and that's fun, but until it actually makes sense for you, it's not going to really stick. So I want you to do that right now. Whatever your goal is, whether it's 1 million a year, 5 million a year, 750,000 a year, I don't care what that number is. I want you to do the math. How many clients do you actually need? And what would it really take for you to be able to serve that many people? Because the second part of this math, and what I see why a lot of people don't hit this, is they don't have the scalability in their firm yet to do it. So for example, I teach what's called the 4x4 method. For people who are trying to get to 500,000 a year, the things that I teach is first work on your business 4 hours a day, like as the CEO, right? You're doing marketing, you're doing advertising, you're doing those things. And then you work in your business for half the day as the attorney. And that's why we call it 4x4, or the 50% efficiency method is what you'll hear it called sometimes as well. The secret to this is you're doing enough of the CEO work, enough of the working on the business work to make your business grow, and you're doing enough of the income producing activities as the attorney to earn money and create cash flow, right? Generally speaking, and if you do the math here, this isn't a lesson on how to get to 500,000 a year, so we're not going to talk about this too much. But generally speaking, what you'll see is if you and one person on your team are both billing for 4 hours a day, and whether that's flat fee, contingency fee, hourly fees, it comes out to be about 4 hours a day each, you will make $500,000 a year. Well, what happens here is if you skew that too much one way or the other, so you start working on the business too much, then you don't have enough cash flow to grow. And if you start working in the business too much, you don't have enough CEO activities to grow. You run out of clients, you run out of something. So the number one thing that I hear is that they don't have enough clients to get to the next step. And so she said, my biggest hurdle is staying consistent with marketing so that there is consistent lead flow. Here's what this says, right? This tells me that you know how to get clients. You've probably done a good job at getting clients. The fact that you're here trying to break through the $500,000 ceiling tells me that you've probably gotten good at getting clients. But what happens is you get enough clients that you start working more than 4 hours a day as the attorney, and then you run out of time to stay consistent on marketing and get more clients, right? That's why I teach the 4x4 method. Is if you force yourself to stay in that method, then the method to scale has to be something other than you working harder. And the number one thing I see that stops people from hitting $500,000 a year is they start working too hard, which is crazy to think that you're working too hard. And that's why, especially as the attorney. And then the only way to scale and to make more money is to work more hours. And there's just not enough hours in the day for one person to do this. And that's why I say, start with doing the math, figure out how many clients have to be served, how many hours has to be worked, however you bill, and then figure out who can do that. The second part here is then knowing your numbers. As attorneys, most people, I swear, went to law school because they hate numbers and they hate math. They don't want to talk about numbers at all. If you are someone here that hates math or hate numbers, say so in the chat. Now that I can see the chat, you can say those things and I will see it. So just say so in the chat. Like, do you love math? Do you hate math? What do you think about keeping track of and following numbers? And I've found very frequently, a lot of attorneys just hate the discussion about numbers. They hate talking about numbers, hate looking at numbers. And I hate to say it, but to break the 500,000 ceiling, the second thing that you're going to have to do is look at your numbers. So one of my favorite people in this world, not just favorite coaching client, but favorite people in this world is Mel. And she was stuck at this roughly $500,000 a year threshold for quite a while. We actually worked together. We coached, we did a lot of things, and we had a lot of good mindset growth over the first year and a half that we worked together, but we just wouldn't see it on the bottom line. And we changed things with our teams. We did these, and finally, and almost out of a point of just Hail Mary frustration for me, I'm like, okay, well, give me these numbers. These are the numbers I need from you. Give them to me and let's see what's going on. And she had KPIs and those types of things. She was a very talented attorney from the beginning, but we never looked at them this way. And so I had her give me a very specific list of KPIs, how many leads she had, where they were coming from, those types of things, right? Well, she pulls those up and it took us a couple of weeks to get them together, and we sit down and we're going, I'm like, man, now that we have the KPIs in front of us, it was really apparent that the quality of her leads were really bad. She was getting a lot of clicks, and her marketing company, they were measuring success by the number of clicks that she was getting, but only about 20% of those clicks were even potential clients. So, which is scary, right? If you think about it, every time someone clicks on something, you pay for that. And if only 20% of them are actually potential clients, that's really scary, and kind of goes to show that she was paying a lot for bad leads. So in this case, because we were able to review her numbers, we realized that was the issue. And then I connected her with one of my marketing friends. And the very next month, her quality of leads doubled. She had twice as many qualified leads. She actually had 2 less leads overall. I think she went from 80 to 78, but she went from 20 to 40 on the quality leads, which that'd be 25% to 50%. So my math may be a little off and I may be missing a couple of numbers there, but the principle still rings true. Well, because she doubled her quality of leads, we broke her intake system, and which is cool. But because we had the numbers in front of us, we could see, okay, leads are now fixed, but now all of a sudden we had a bunch of people either not book or not show up. Okay, that's an intake problem. So we fixed her intake. Not surprisingly, once we fixed her intake, her sales system broke. She didn't have the bandwidth to do the number of calls and effectively the follow-up, that kind of stuff there. So we had to fix the sales system. The first month fixing the lead issue, the second month fixing the intake issue, and the third month fixing the sales issue, her company doubled in income. And last year I had a 2x revenue mastermind that we were doing, and she was one of the few that actually doubled their revenue last year, effectively getting to nearly that $1 million mark. We'll see where she gets to this year, but it all came down to this, right? First, it was the belief. It was her truly believing and understanding and knowing what it was going to take for her to do that. And her believing that she and her team could do this. And so we did spend quite a bit of time working with the team, fixing some systems, doing those types of things so that she believed that. Do you have to spend a bunch of time working on teams and systems and all those kind of things to make it $500,000? You do need teams and systems for sure, but did we need to spend that much time to fix it? No. What we really needed to do was make sure she believed it. Then once she believed it, we went into the numbers. For her, it was straightforward, right? We needed to fix the lead issue, then the intake issue, then the sales issue, and then she got the results. Her team was already ready to fulfill the services. So once we got enough clients in there for her team to do those services, she doubled it. For you, it's probably going to be something different. And that's what makes getting from $500,000 to $1 million probably one of the hardest things to do. I think getting from 0 to $500,000 is one of the easiest things to do. You take that 4x4 method, some of the other things we talk about both on these Facebook Lives and in our group, and you can get to the $500,000. There's some mindset things there, but overall, to be honest, it's pretty straightforward. But to get from $500,000 to $1 million, I truly believe this is one of the toughest things. And you'll see people go from $1 million to $5 million and $10 million and $20 million almost faster than they went from $500,000 to $1 million. And I truly believe one of the biggest issues is that what got you to $500,000 is what's stopping you from getting to $1 million. And we talked about it a little bit before, but I believe that why getting to $1 million is so tough. Like I said, what got you to $1 million, $500,000 is what's stopping you to getting to $1 million. And that's because you did so many of these things yourself to get there. No doubt that if you're making $500,000 a year, you are a hardworking attorney. You're smart. You have figured it out a little bit, right? You have at least figured out and understood your ideal client enough that you can talk to them and you can relay to them the value of your services. You're probably then having to work hard to keep that going, and you're probably working hard and believing that no one can do this as well as you can, at least elements of your practice. And one of the biggest mindset shifts I had to have when I was doing this was understanding that there's probably someone out there in this world that can do every aspect of this business better than I can. Now, all of the aspects better than me? Probably not. But each individual aspect, there is someone who is better at sales than I am. There's someone who's better at intake than I am. If nothing else, given the time and attention, they can do a better job than I could, right? Maybe I could be the best at intake. If I spent all 40 hours a week just working on intake, maybe I could be the best, but that's not realistic. And maybe I need to find somebody who can do that thing full time and do it better than I can. So I love books like Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time and all these other books, right? And in Buy Back Your Time, Dan Martell says that 80% done by someone else is 100% awesome. He says that because he wants to convince you to delegate. The truth is, though, that almost every time you delegate, you end up, it's not 80%, it's 120% or 150%. For example, Rebecca that works here at my office, she is a master at following up with people. And a lot of the things that we sell in our law firm require a two-part close. They have to talk to somebody else, get them to agree to do the service that we're offering, and then they have to come and pay. And I don't like taking their money because it's non-refundable until we've gotten both parties to agree. So it's a mediation service, so we do actually have to have both parties agree. But it doesn't make sense to have them on the call at the beginning because they're still trying to decide if they're going to do mediation or attorney services. So you don't want to hop on a call with your ex to decide if you're going to hire us as an attorney, right? So there is some elements here that make it tricky as part of the sell. Well, I don't have the bandwidth to follow up with people, right? It often takes 3, 4, 5 attempts to actually get a hold of someone, because we're going to text, we're going to email, we're going to call, we're going to do all of these different things. We have systems that help automate it, but at the end of the day, someone has to do that. Someone has to oversee it and make sure it's working. She's very attentive to detail and making sure that those things are happening, and making the texts and the calls manually if needed to make sure these people get followed up with. And so, not surprisingly, we had a huge uptick in converting potential clients to clients when she started working here. Now, does she understand all of the sales principles and stuff that I do? No. But because she has the attention and the time to do it, what she does is better than anything I could have done. So that's a big part of this, is being able to let go and letting someone else do something. There's a book called Who Not How. And it's one of the best principles, I think, to get you from $500,000 to $1 million. I think it's one of the worst principles to get you from 0 to $500,000. I think at the beginning, you should be doing these things. You should be manually doing some of this stuff so that you can learn it. When you're talking to people about your offer, when you're doing those things, that's a great way to learn. But then once you learn it, then you got to teach someone else to do it. And there is a skill set there, a leadership skill set that has to be exercised and learned in order to make it to this next step. But you start asking the who, not how questions. Now, the way to do this and not go broke, right? Because if you just go hire, a CEO for $180,000 a year or $250,000 a year, and you don't have the cash flow for it, you're going to go broke, right? So knowing who should be the next hire, that comes right back to your numbers, right back to those KPIs. Understanding what issue needs to be solved first, and then hiring that person first. And there's tons of stuff on this, and we can do a whole other training on this if you guys want to, on who to hire first, how to hire, those types of things. But generally speaking, if I'm going to give you the 10,000 foot view, right, is buying back your time, hiring the lowest cost per hour person that buys back the most of your time. So in Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time book, I want to say it's page 86. That's silly. 84. I was close. He has a little replacement ladder here. So if you don't have a copy of one of these books, let me know. I'd be happy to send it to you for free. I have got a huge stack still here. So like I said, page 84 of that book. If you don't have a copy, let me know. And he goes through and says, the first thing you should hire are admin, people who are doing inbox calendars, those type of things, right? Truth is, you can generally hire an admin for anywhere from $6 to $15 an hour. And often those things cost you a lot of time. And so that's why he's saying that, right? Because if you can hire someone for $6 an hour and they buy back, 10 hours of your time, and now all of a sudden you can take half of those hours and you bill it $300 or $400 an hour, right? Like you've received a ton of benefit. So generally speaking, hire the people who are going to cost the least, that buy back the most part of your time. And you can do a time and energy audit to see what's costing you the most time. And then you decide which of those things can be delegated. Don't limit yourself to work-related tasks. So for instance, I was spending 2 to 2.5 hours every single week mowing the lawn. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. I'd put my audiobook in, get some exercise in, whatever. But at the end of the day, it was still sucking up 2.5 hours of time. And I wanted to do my exercise stuff a little bit differently. My son was now old enough to mow the lawn, right? And so I bought back that time. I taught him how to mow the lawn. It was a great opportunity for me to be a dad and teach my son how to work and those types of things. That was a very frustrating opportunity to teach him how to weed whack and see it not done perfectly, right? A lot of parenting opportunities there that were tough. At the end of the day, though, I was able to buy back 2 hours of my time for $20. So it cost me roughly, he takes longer than 2 hours to get it done, but that's okay. He's 10, so he can make less money. But for $20, I got 2.5 hours a week of my life back. I can bill a lot more than $20 for 2.5 hours, right? And that's one of the things I do like working with attorneys is we do understand the value of our time. Maybe too much. Sometimes we do trade our time for money too much, but at least you understand it and you understand that buyback rate. So start there. So far we've talked about 1, believing that it's possible, and 2, knowing your numbers and making your next business decisions off of those numbers, which kind of comes to the third point. And that's having a good tribe and a good mentor to help you through this. That doesn't have to be a paid coach. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. But especially having a good tribe, people who are like you that are trying to do the same thing, right? So I think one of the reasons Mel was able to double her revenue last year is, one, she had really good numbers. Two, I would like to say she had a good mentor, but I'm biased on that one. And three, she had a really good tribe. So we had an entire mastermind last year talking about just how to double your revenue. So everybody who was in that mastermind was trying to double their revenue. And we were all working together, supporting each other, encouraging each other to do that. And not surprisingly, almost everybody in that mastermind increased their revenue. They didn't all double it. And sometimes when you have a big revenue, it's hard to double your revenue. But many did and got pretty close. And it's because when you have a good tribe, people like you, right? That's why I've created a Time Freedom Lawyer community, because I wanted to find people who wanted to make good money, but wanted to do it the right way. They wanted to do it ethically. They wanted to do it by benefiting their clients, and they wanted to do it without sacrificing their family. That's what, to me, it means to be a Time Freedom Lawyer. But when you have that tribe, and whatever is important to you is the tribe you should be looking for. But when you have a tribe of that nature, one, you see other people succeed who are just like you, and it helps you believe it's possible. Two, you're able to learn from each other's mistakes. And so you can see, hey, I tried this and it didn't work, or hey, I tried this and it did work. And that gives you kind of the power and the belief to do it again. And just having that mastermind to bounce ideas off of and grow is one of the best things that I've found. There's also a lot of science behind this, okay? Teaching people is the best way to learn things. So Russell Brunson was telling a story in one of his books, and he talks about how he was a wrestler. And so he did really well in wrestling. He took state, whatever, and he was invited to come back and teach the younger kids how to wrestle. And so the first time he does it, he does this move. He's like, look, you do it like this, and you grab the person and you do it, right? Well, these little kids couldn't do it. And he's like, huh. He's like, okay, well, just because it's so natural to me doesn't mean it's natural to other people, right? I mean, there's a reason he took state and not everybody takes state, right? So when he's doing it, he then had to explain to the kids, okay, like this works because like you got to put your hip here and you got to bend your knee this way. And this is where you're trying to grab them. And, he had to break down the move so that he could teach someone else how to do it. And by breaking down what was something that was just natural to him initially, he learned it better. And he goes on to take second in the nation the following year. And he gives a lot of credit, obviously, to his hard work, but a lot of it was to teaching other people. So the power of having a good tribe or a good mastermind, a good group to coordinate it with is you get to try things and see what works, but then you also have to teach that to someone else. And in teaching it, you break it down even further so you understand it. And I noticed this same thing was true for me. So I grew my business. I was hitting $500,000 a year. I was actually kind of stuck at $500,000 a year, if I'm being honest. And I decided I wanted to coach other people on how to do the same. So I hired a coach to help me with my coaching program, someone who had helped coaches build programs in the past. Instead of reinventing the wheel and doing it for 5 years to figure it out myself, I figured I'd hire someone and shorten that gap now that I had the cash flow to do it. And he helped me build my program. And I started teaching people how to grow their businesses. What was really fascinating is I got a couple of clients, and each week we would coach and we would work together. And it really solidified for me what I needed to do in my own firm. And so I started implementing the things that I was coaching in my own firm, and my firm's profit skyrocketed. Like we ended up getting so many more clients, and I didn't have a good associate at the time. I did have an associate that did not work out. That was part of it, right? So we build all these clients up. I get an associate, she doesn't work out. We had to let her go. And all of a sudden we had all this work. And I actually had to pause my coaching program from getting new clients for 6 months as I built out the systems in my own firm to handle all the new work that I had. But it was because I started teaching other people how to do it. I understood it better. And therefore I ended up getting so much better in my own firm that I didn't have the bandwidth to handle it. So, and I've had that happen a couple of times as I've hit new milestones in my coaching program. My law firm will hit new milestones. And even at the beginning of this year, we hired another attorney. We hired 2 new support staff. Our firm actually has doubled in gross revenue in the last 6 months. Not surprisingly, I had to actually slow down how many coaching clients I got to handle the growth there until I could get everybody set up, just because we had such fast growth in such a short amount of time. And so that's going to happen for you too. You don't have to have a coaching program though to help other people. You can do this as part of a mastermind or part of a tribe or a community. You can do that in Facebook groups. You can do whatever, but my challenge for you is, one, identify your goal. What do you actually want to achieve? And do the math so that you know it's possible. And then two, get a very good understanding of your numbers and your KPIs. There's a lot of resources out there on how to create KPIs. I've got stuff obviously in my program. I'm happy to share it with you, but you don't have to pay for this kind of stuff. You can find this stuff online. And then three, start sharing what you've learned with other people. Find a mastermind or a community or someone of people like you that want to achieve the same things as you that you can bounce ideas off of. I think those three things are going to help you the most. And I kind of want to just wrap this up with a quick story. I personally have struggled with the whole, should I do it myself or should I hire someone else to help me? I've struggled in that in my personal life, in my career, in my business, my law firm, in my coaching business. I've really struggled with the idea of, can someone really do this better than me? And it was eye-opening to me this year when I hired this new attorney, and then I hired 2 new support staff, just to see how much that team was able to accomplish. And I truly, at that point is when I fully stepped out of the practice of law. I have a couple of cases that are just projects for me, good friends that got divorced and need some help or something like that. But they're not for revenue generating purposes. I mean, I get paid obviously, but they're a fraction of what we collect at this point. And the only regret I have is not doing it sooner. And that was the same thing with coaching in my life. I wish I had gotten a mentor sooner. I took 5 years to get to $500,000 a year. Sierra, my first coaching client, did it in a year. I was then challenged I was helping people do it in about 6 to 12 months. And one of my mentors asked me, hey, can you do it in 3? That's when I created what was kind of the flagship program that kind of took my coaching program and made it as successful as it's become, as I turned it into a 12-week program. Mitch and Cassie, they're always happy to talk. They were part of that first 12-week program, but they both got to 10,000 a week in about 6 to 9 weeks. I think Mitch may have even been a little bit faster than that. And it just, honestly, the thing that was crazy for me is I'm so glad I hired that coach that challenged me to say, hey, you're doing it in 6. Why aren't you doing it in 3 months? And then sitting down and asking myself, okay, what are all the things that we're doing that don't have to be done? And getting rid of all the extra crap so that we could have better results. And then watching Mitch and Cassie blow it out of the water. They didn't know that 12 weeks was I was pushing it. I did not know if I could do it in 12 weeks. I had a guarantee on the program. So I figured I'm going to try this. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, I can give people their money back and I won't feel bad that I promised a 12-week result when I don't know if I could do it. They didn't know that though. They believed it was possible. And so they did it in 6 and 9. And that's what just opened the door for me of, man, if this is possible, what else is? And some of the best coaching I've ever received was I couldn't do 10,000 a week myself. My coach challenged me and said, okay, then what would it take to do 10,000 in a day? And just pushing that belief factor even farther. So if you're considering hiring or hiring an employee or getting a coach or anything of that, I'm going to challenge you to take action on that. If you're in this call trying to get from $500,000 to a year, you're not the target audience of my $10,000 a week program, right? But you may fit in with our mastermind. That mastermind is by invite only, okay? So generally we don't open that to the public. Generally, you have to already be a time freedom lawyer. You have to have done a different program. You have to have proven that not only are you willing to work hard and that you're making some money, but that you hold yourself out as someone who's about more than just money. Like you represent those principles of a time freedom lawyer. You care about life over money. You want to make good money, but the reason you're wanting to make good money is so that you can make a difference. You can spend more time with your family, you can do the things that you love, and you can help other people. So that's why we've made this invite only. For those people who are here watching this video, if you would be interested in a community like that, I would be willing to hop on a call and see if you're a good fit. I can't guarantee that you would get a spot in the mastermind because I want to preserve the value of that. But I'd love to hop on a call and see if it's a good fit. To sweeten the deal, because I've been told to make an offer so good people feel stupid saying no, we've created what we call a legacy pricing model, where the people who are joining right now, we're offering 50% off of the price. And you keep that 50% off no matter what happens in the future. So if the price of the program goes up, which it probably will, you'll still get 50% off of even the higher price. And so you'll retain that benefit indefinitely for as long as you're part of the mastermind. So if that's something you're interested in, love to have a chat. If not, that's totally cool too. These are all free, valuable things. I just love helping people hit their goals. So believe that your goal is possible. Know the numbers. Know what it's going to take for you to hit your goal, and then go and do it, right? Take the action, ask who, not how, and make it happen. Find a tribe that works for you and hit your goals. So this was awesome. Love seeing you guys. If you're interested in that mastermind offer, shoot me a DM. Just send me a message and we'll hop on a call and see if that makes good sense. Either me or my team. I do have a team that sometimes helps me manage those messages. I get a lot of messages, and so I do have someone that helps me so that while I'm busy, but we'll make sure that we have that conversation. So thank you again. Super good talking to you. If you know anybody who would be interested in this video, this free video, please share it with them. We love sharing this free content. We want to get it out there to as many people as we can. So thank you, everybody. We will see you again in the next video.